from? I mean, I imagine a lot of it comes from the messaging.
Some part of it comes from politics, meaning Republicans are less than Democrats trusting. Some part of it comes from race. Blacks and Hispanics are less trusting than white. Some part of it, you'll be surprised, actually urban people are, more trusting than rural. And the problem is internet searches is the number one source of information for the unvaccinated, not experts. And it just means that you get urban myths passed around.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have members of my family in the medical community, and it's like you got to be careful about Dr. Google because, you all of a sudden think you have something, and then you walk into a doctor's office, and this is what you say you have, and, you've got to really rely on the experts in the science, whether it's the pandemic or anything else that's out there. It is interesting.
But Carol, on that point,
yeah.
2/3 of people say that there's a gap between how well they take care of their health and how well it should be taken care of. So they're self-aware. But information is equal to cost in driving that gap. In other words, in America, under half the people say they consume health information once a week, which is crazy. And how do they fill it? Well, as you say, they go online.
Which is interesting. I was thinking about having done a couple of virtual doctor visits and was pretty skeptical running into it or going into it. I realized actually how great it can be if you're busy or, the access it can give you. It's not perfect and it won't work for everything. There's nothing like face-to-face. But I do wonder, I think we thought to some extent that this would be a great game changer. What's the thought on technology in medicine and access?
What we found is that the most trusted source for people who are basically distrusting is my doctor or pharmacist, people close to them. And also, Carol, employers. And that's really important for the listeners of this show because they're the leading believable source of health information. So my employer is critical.
Wow. So what's the recommendation when you take all this together, Richard? What are the takeaways for us to change this?
We have to break through this information barrier.
But should it be employers who are the ones who do this? Because not everybody trusts their employer.
Here's the thing. We have to build trust in the health ecosystem. We have low trust in government right now, and therefore it's on my employer. And it's on my employer influencing good health choices, giving reliable information, giving people incentives to their health. And we have to also address disparities in health outcomes. People in lower income neighborhoods, etc., they have a 2-to-1 worse outcome for COVID, partly because they're frontline workers and also partly because they don't have equal access to docs.
Well, it's interesting. I was thinking about the work shifting summit that we did last week for Bloomberg Live, and I've talked with Fran Kasudas over at Cisco, Chief People Policy and Purpose Officer. She's a senior, executive VP there, and so, in the C-suite, the mental well-being has certainly been something that companies, certainly at Cisco and elsewhere, that they are taking seriously and understand their role in it. Hey, Richard, before we go, just got about a minute or so left, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you. You talk to the global corporate community on a regular basis. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, what does it mean longer term? Are companies going to step away from Russia if they need to, as required by sanctions, but also stay away longer term?
I think that they're being pushed by their employees and by their consumers to say we're out. And 350 companies have made that choice. And the obvious ones were the energy companies that were in joint ventures with Russian state-owned companies. But then it became the tech companies and financial services, and then more recently people in QSR restaurants. And so this is as dramatic a move by companies that I can remember since South African sanctions in the 70s and 80s during apartheid.
Is it permanent?
I think it is certainly permanent given the state of affairs in the current government in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time seeing how some of these companies can say, wait a second, okay, Putin, whatever happens next, yeah, we're going to go back in, whatever that looks like, and whatever, how long that takes.
Well, especially if this war goes on for another couple of weeks and, Kiev gets destroyed and they're thousands of casualties and 5 million people who've had to immigrate. It has all the aspects of a complete mess, and companies don't want to be part of a mess.
All right, thank you so much. Richard, be well. Richard Edelman, Chief Executive Officer at Edelman, on the phone in New York City, out with their latest trust barometer here in 2022, a special report, Trust in Healthcare, really looking at that issue specifically. All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Next up, Silicon Valley and Russia. What does that mean? We'll tell you.
Don't miss Sound On with Joe Matthew today at 5 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio. Joe is joined by former U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. That's Sound On today at 5 on Bloomberg Radio.
Breaking business news from Sydney to Tokyo to Hong Kong. Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
I'm Brian Kirk. China's data on retail sales and industrial production points to monetary easing. Will Beijing's support for Russia hurt China's global standing?
And how will Shenzhen's lockdown impact the global supply chain? Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. Tonight at 6 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Want to invest in crypto, but not sure what to buy? Domain Money offers actively managed crypto portfolios designed to build your wealth. The Domain Strategies team has done the work to help pick the right crypto investments for you. Get broad exposure to a variety of the leading crypto investments, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Polygon, with an investment in one of Domain Money's crypto portfolios. Don't guess or chase the latest trends. Using Domain Money strategies is like having your own dedicated investment team with deep expertise in crypto, focused on building your wealth. With live customer agents ready to answer your questions, Domain Money is the intelligent way to invest in crypto. Download Domain Money today on the Apple App Store or go to DomainMoney.com. That's DomainMoney.com. Domain strategies are managed by Domain Money Advisors, LLC, registered investment advisor. Investing in cryptocurrency comes with particular risks. For important disclosures, please see DomainMoney.com/legal.
Dear Calvary Hospital, it was April at the height of the pandemic. I was alone, caring for my dying mom. If I brought her to a hospital, I couldn't stay with her, and every doctor and nurse simply refused to come into our house. That is, until Calvary Hospice came and rescued us. Nurse Kelly immediately assessed Mom and guided me through every step on bringing her back to being comfortable and pain-free, physically and mentally. She was accessible 24/7 as we FaceTimed day and night. I was never concerned about Mom's safety. 8 days later, Mom passed on with dignity and grace, thanks to an angel called Nurse Kelly and a miraculous place called Calvary. Sincerely, Angela Calvary.
This is Frank Calamari, president of Calvary Hospital. During this time, be assured that Calvary continues to provide the safest and healthiest environment for our staff, our patients, and their families. Are you in possession of gold, silver, or platinum? Maybe even some rare coins or old paper money that you'd like to sell? Stack's Bowers Galleries offers top dollar with immediate cash payment and is one of the largest, most trusted and ethical dealers and auctioneers of numismatic items in the U.S. for 90 years. Come visit our location on Park Avenue between 57th and 58th today for a free, no-obligation appraisal of your precious metal bullion items, rare coins, or old paper money. Whether you're in the market to buy or sell your valuable coins or precious metal, we can help. For more information or to speak to a trusted specialist, just call us at 212-582-2580. That's 212-582-2580. We'll help turn your collectibles into a generous cash payment today. Visit us in person or online at stacksbowers.com. That's STACKS Bowers.com. Stop by one of our locations today in New York City, Philadelphia, or Boston, coming in 2022.
Lost revenue, unhappy customers, shrinking profits. A whopping 80% of businesses are compromised by supply chain disruptions. Your business doesn't have to be one of them. GEP Software helps hundreds of Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies transform their supply chains to become more agile and resilient. With greater visibility and control, GEP helps you eliminate risk and avoid disruption. GEP Software, Strategy, Managed Services.
It's 4:29 on Wall Street. Time for Drive Time Traffic. We do it every 15 minutes right here on Bloomberg Radio. Ed Kalegi, 280 in New Jersey. What's going on?
Tim 280 westbound by McCarter Highway in Newark. There is an accident. One lane is blocked. A heavy ride coming out of Harrison. Eastbound, everyone slows down to see what's going on. Also in New Jersey, an accident 17. This is on the southbound side coming in towards Paramus at Midland Avenue. Outbound Holland Tunnel to 30 minutes. Inbound 10 minutes and 1 at 9. 30 minutes out over at the Lincoln Tunnel. Now turning into the George Washington Bridge. Quite a challenge right now. You've got the west side slope in the mid-60s all the way on up. And essentially the east side is slope in the mid-90s. Yes, all the way on up too. The George Washington Bridge, a very difficult ride at this point. Looks like the New England Thruway still with an accident southbound in Co-op City. 2 left lanes are blocked and a heavy ride from Connor Street down the road. Some more delays in the Cross Bronx because of an accident by the Sheridan Expressway. The Bloomberg 1130 3-day weather. Now for tonight, we'll see clear skies in Midtown. Lows of 40 to 45. Tomorrow a sunny day. Highs reaching 60 to 65. Wednesday, mostly sunny. Highs close in on 60. And Thursday, some clouds move in. There's a chance of a shower and a high 55 to 60. Right now in Central Park, 55 degrees, mostly sunny with the best ride. In and out of the city, I'm Nick Pilecki, Bloomberg 1130. Bloomberg Business Week continues.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week on this Monday. Carol Master along with Tim Stanback. And coming up, we're going to talk about Silicon Valley, what it is doing to try and disentangle itself from Russian money.
Jackie DeValos, technology reporter for Bloomberg News, has a new story out on the Bloomberg terminal. We're going to get to it in just a few minutes. First, though, let's get a check of everything happening after hours and how this trade ended up. Here's Charlie Bella.
Hey, thank you very much. First of all, how we ended up. It was a losing day, Tim Stenovic, for the Dow. Actually, for the S&P and NASDAQ. The Dow, choppy session, but it managed to eke out a 1-point gain today. S&P down 31, drop there of 7 tenths. NASDAQ down 262, lower by 2%. 10-year yield 2.13%. Gold down 1.7%, 19.50 through the ounce. Oil, a major story today. 102.12 is where West Texas Intermediate crude now stands, lower today by 6.6%. Brent down 5.9%, 106.06 for a barrel of Brent. So what was driving today's trading? Sarah Ponzik is Senior Wealth Strategy Associate at UBS Private Wealth Management, and she was our guest right here on Bloomberg Business Week.
You see the NASDAQ, for example, back in a bear market, down more than 20%. We see tech stocks and high valuation companies really taking the brunt of the selling.
And today we had the NASDAQ 100 closing in a bear market for the first time since March of 2020. Earnings after the bell today. Coupa Software's revenue forecast for the first quarter missed the average analyst estimate. Shares are plunging now by about 26%. We also heard from Vail Resorts. Second quarter net revenue, $906.5 million. Estimates, $956.8 million, now down by about 2.7%. Vail, by the way, hiking its dividend, also increasing its minimum wage to $20 an hour. Recapping 10-year yield, 2.13%. S&P today down 0.7%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. Charlie, thank you. Well, follow the money. That is something we are doing from many angles when it comes to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That includes a story on what Silicon Valley is doing as it tries to distance itself, disentangle itself from Russian money. It's not so easy, though.
It's not easy, as Jackie DeValos explains. In one of her most recent pieces, she's technology reporter for Bloomberg News. She joins us on the phone from New York City. Her piece, along with Ivan Livingston and Sarah McBride, Silicon Valley tries to disentangle itself from Russian money. Jackie, to what extent does Russian money, is Russian money supporting startups in Silicon Valley right now?
That is a difficult question to answer, but it was something that we wanted to at least get to a little bit of the bottom of, because it is not an easy task to even trace where this money is coming from. Even after the annexation of Crimea, which in turn led to an exodus of Russian entrepreneurs and more scrutiny around Russia-tied capital, you still have oligarch-backed family offices, holdings companies, other offshore investment vehicles that have made it easy for these ties to go under the radar. So what we do know for sure is that there's been about $9 billion over the last year in Russian capital into startups. That number has only grown over the past 4 years since a lot of this scrutiny around Russia ties has intensified. Looking forward to today, legal experts tell us that, because there's a varying level of restrictions depending on the type of sanctions, it's hard to say what exactly is going to happen to those that have exposure.
In fact, how do you pull the money back from startups that, either put the money to work? I mean, it's not so easy.
No, and it really does start with the venture capital firms that disperse this money to the startups, which is why we were focusing on some of the biggest firms out there. You look at RTP Global, which was started by an oligarch, effectively, that was placed on the Treasury list of Putin allies back in 2018. That relationship is starting to come under scrutiny. You have DSM, you have Fort Ross, another one that we profiled. They have a hard time now, difficult decisions to make. What happens to not just the startups, but also the other limited partners, the other investors in the firm, because a lot of that capital is subject to being frozen, especially if you are on the sanctions list that is the most restrictive. And so for startups, they are shielded a little bit because there is enough funds to kind of, be able to spread it across and other LPs to keep it afloat. But these sanctions are only going to increase scrutiny.
I want to talk a little bit about Yuri Milner, who people have been following technology in Facebook for years. It's a familiar name to them. A Russian-Israeli billionaire. CST Global is the firm that he's behind. Used to be Digital Sky Technologies, but an investor in Facebook, Twitter, Alibaba. What do we need to know about Milner?
There is a lot. He was recently slapped with, or in the past has come under more scrutiny